The boardroom was fuller than usual that morning. Executives, lawyers, investors, analysts, faces serious, numbers glowing on the massive screen. Everyone knew the future of the company would be decided in this room, but only a few knew the personal storm behind it. I sat at the head of the table, calm on the outside, a lifetime of emotion inside. Across from me, he sat stiffly, hands folded, eyes tired, no confidence left in his posture, just fear, hope, regret. The CEO stood and began the presentation. Charts showed debt, losses, risk, then projections, recovery, growth. If handled correctly, our acquisition can save this company, he said firmly, but only with structural change. Eyes turned toward me. This decision rests with our project director. Silence filled the room. Every heartbeat sounded loud in my ears. This was it, the moment everything balanced on. Love, pain, power, growth, closure. I stood slowly, walked toward the screen, and began. 3 years ago, I said calmly, this company was rising. Heads nodded. Today it's drowning. No one argued. The collapse wasn't sudden, I continued. It was built by reckless spending, personal withdrawals, and risky loans. The CEO confirmed with numbers. Gasps whispered around the table. Yet, I said steadily, it is still worth saving. More silence. Our firm will absorb the debt, restructure operations, and stabilize cash flow, I announced. Relief moved across the room. Investors leaned forward. Hope returned. But I added softly, leadership will change immediately. The word landed heavy. I turned toward him, met his eyes. They already knew. Effective today. I said, clearly, the current director is removed from his position. Shock rippled through the room. Some covered mouths. Others whispered, he will retain partial ownership shares. I continued, enough to rebuild his life, but not enough to control this company again. Legal advisors nodded. The structure was fair, firm, final. He stood suddenly. Please, he whispered. But I raised my hand gently. This is not revenge, I said calmly to the room. This is accountability. I turned to face him fully now. The room faded. It was just us. You left me when I was struggling. I said quietly. You chose comfort over commitment. Tears filled his eyes. You said love doesn't pay bills. I continued. But loyalty builds futures. You lost me when you chose money over love. The words cut deeper than anger ever could. I'm saving your company, I said softly, but I'm not saving you from consequences. His shoulders collapsed, not in anger, in understanding. I deserve this, he whispered. I didn't answer, because the truth no longer needed explanation. The CEO stepped forward. The motion passes, he said firmly. Gavel struck, just like that. The chapter closed. Security quietly escorted him out. Not roughly, not cruelly, just respectfully. A man leaving power behind. As the doors shut, something lifted inside me. Not triumph, peace. The company was saved, jobs protected, futures restored, and my past finally placed where it belonged. Behind me, after the meeting, I stood by the window overlooking the city, hands shaking slightly now that it was over. The CEO joined me. You were strong, he said softly. I was fair, I replied. He smiled gently. That's stronger. I breathed deeply. For the first time in years, I felt light, but what I didn't know yet was that healing would open the door to something even bigger than success. Something real, something steady, something that didn't disappear when life got hard. And that love was about to find me again. Power didn't change how the city looked, but it changed how I walked through it. Straighter, calmer, certain. The storm that once lived in my chest had finally settled. In the days after the boardroom decision, everything moved quickly. The acquisition stabilized the company. Markets responded positively. Staff relaxed. The crisis passed. And for the first time since I walked into Horizon Investments as a broken woman, I wasn't surviving anymore. I was thriving, yet something else had been growing quietly in the background, something not written in reports, something not tracked by numbers, something in the way the CEO looked at me, not like a boss, not like a rescuer, but like a man watching a woman he respected deeply. We worked late, one evening reviewing projections. The office was nearly empty. City lights glowed beyond the glass walls. The same view I once dreamed about when I had nothing. "You've changed everything," he said softly. "I had help," I replied. "You had strength long before I met you," he said. I paused. "What do you mean?" He leaned back in his chair. "I noticed you the first week," he admitted. "Not because you were new, because you asked better questions than managers who'd been here 10 years. I smiled faintly. "You were hurting," he continued, "but you never played weak. I saw how you stayed late, how you studied reports, how you absorbed everything." I swallowed. "You weren't just rebuilding your life," he said. "You were becoming powerful." Silence filled the room. The good kind. The kind that holds emotion instead of awkwardness. "There's something I've wanted to tell you since the boardroom," he said quietly. My heart beat faster. "I admire you," he said simply, "not for what you achieved, for how you rose." I met his eyes, and somewhere along the way, he continued softly. Admiration turned into something deeper. My breath caught. "I didn't want to cross boundaries," he said. "You were healing, and I respected that. But now," I whispered, "now I want to be honest. I've fallen for you." The words landed gently, not like my past love, rushed and desperate. This felt steady, earned, safe. "I don't need you to say anything right now," he added. "I just wanted you to know." But I already knew my answer, because love didn't scare me anymore. Settling did. "I care about you too," I said softly. His eyes warmed. But this time, I continued. "I choose slowly. I choose respect. I choose partnership." He smiled. "That's exactly what I want." He stood, held out his hand. "Not just in love," he said gently, "but in life. In business, in building something real, a partnership." I teased softly. "A powerful one," he replied. I placed my hand in his, and for the first time, love felt like strength, not sacrifice. Weeks later, the company officially announced me as senior partner. News headlines celebrated the turnaround, the once broke woman now leading a corporate empire. But the biggest victory wasn't money. It was peace. One evening, as I left the building with the CEO beside me, laughter floating between us, I saw him, my ex, standing across the street, watching, not angry, not bitter, just silent, seeing the life he walked away from. Our eyes met. I didn't stop, didn't slow, didn't look back again, because the chapter was closed. Behind me stood pain, struggle, hunger, and betrayal. Ahead of me stood love, power, growth, and respect. I once begged a man to stay, Now a man stood beside me, choosing me every day. He left when I was broke. Now I controlled the future. But more importantly, I controlled my worth. And love finally met me where I stood, strong, whole, unbreakable. Sometimes losing someone is the beginning of finding yourself. And sometimes the person who leaves you in your darkest season was never meant to walk with you into your brightest one.